Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Migraine. Hunter was in the refresher, bent over the sink holding his head. He felt nauseous and his head was spinning and his breathing was a little erratic. His whole body ached and it hurt to move. Hunter took off his headband and placed it on the counter to relieve some of the pressure on his head. He ran the water, trying to drown out all exterior noises. They were 10 times louder. Hunter wanted the pounding in his head to stop. He put his hand under the water and splashed his face, hoping that the cooling feeling of the water would help. The water slowly ran down his face, and he could taste blood. He looked up to the mirror in front of him, squinting his eyes. He could see blood coming from his nose and hitting his lip, making its way down his chin. He slowly brought his fingers to his face. This small act made his whole body tremble. His hand started to shake as he gently made contact with his face. He felt the blood on his fingers and looked at it. He hadn't had a migraine that made his nose bleed in a long time. Seeing this, he closed his eyes again, trying to stop the pain once more. But it did not work once again. He decided that he needed to get to Tech so he could give him something to help with it. He reached for the faucet, trying to find it with his eyes closed. He felt around the sink, leaving blood stains from his hands all over the sink. He eventually found it and turned off the water. Immediately, he felt a sharp ringing in his ears as he could hear someone talking. He grunted, holding his head once more, wishing the pain would go away. He took his fist and pushed the door controls. The light from the ship was too bright. Even though he had his eyes closed, it made everything hurt worse. He got disoriented and stumbled out of the refresher, feeling even more lightheaded. He held onto the side control panels as a guide on his way to the voices. But as he got closer, it hurt even more. He made it to the entrance of the cockpit holding his head. Echo, Tech, and Wrecker were all in the cockpit waiting for Hunter. "Hunter, are you—" Echo was cut off when Hunter stumbled and fell to the ground. He had curled up and was holding his head. They all raced over to see if he was okay. Tech bent down to check on him. He gently pushed one of his hands away from his brother's face. Tech saw the blood coming from Hunter's nose. He placed his hand on Hunter's forehead and could feel it was a little warmer than usual. Next, he moved his hand to feel Hunter's pulse and noticed it was faster than normal. Tech knew that it was a migraine, but one like this was uncommon for Hunter. Echo didn't really know what was going on. He had never seen Hunter like this before. He didn't join the Bad Batch too long ago, so some things were still new. Tech looked back at Wrecker and signaled him to pick Hunter up without speaking, not wanting to cause him any more pain. Wrecker picked Hunter up in his arms. Hunter just let out a small moan from the pain of the movement. He turned in Wrecker's arms so that he could be more comfortable and buried his head in his brother's armor. Tech went to grab the med kit and started to follow Wrecker into Hunter's room when Echo pulled him aside. "Is he okay?" Echo asked, worried. "What's happening?" "He will be fine. He is having one of his more severe migraines." Tech turned and went to Hunter's room. Wrecker had set Hunter down in his bed. Tech walked in and saw that Hunter was curled up again. Echo came to stand in the doorway to make sure everything was really okay. Tech set down the med kit and pulled out a cloth to wipe the blood from Hunter's nose. Then he took out a sedative and injected into his arm. Slowly, the wrinkles on his face from the pain of the migraine went away as his whole body started to relax. His breathing evened out, and he stopped clutching his head as they lay in front of his face. The pounding in his head and ears stopped as he slowly drifted asleep. Tech stayed to run a few more scans of his body, and Wrecker stayed as well. Echo turned out of the doorway. As turned around as he was met with the eyes of a very concerned-looking Omega. The door shut, and Omega asked what was going on. "What's going on?" Omega asked. Echo bent down on his knees so that he could be at eye level with Omega. "Hunter's having a bad migraine." "Is he okay? Is he hurt? Will he be all right?" she said really fast, looking around Echo at the closed door. Echo put his hand on her shoulder so that Omega would look at him. "He will be fine. There's no need to worry," Echo said reassuringly. "He just needs some rest." Omega looked at Echo and gave him a worried look. He'll be fine, Omega. You can see him later, okay?" She nodded at Echo. Hunter woke up to see that Omega was sitting by his bed. She looked like she was about to fall asleep. She perked up when she saw that Hunter had opened his eyes a little. Hunter smiled at her sleepily, still tired from the sedative. "Are you—" Omega stopped talking when Hunter squinted in pain, drawing his hand up to his head. His migraine wasn't completely gone. "Sorry, Hunter," she whispered as quietly as she could. "It's fine, kid," Hunter whispered back, still squinting a little. He patted the space next to him on the bed, motioning for Omega to come and lie down beside him. She laid down beside him, cuddling up close next to him, putting her head under his chin and curling up, closing her eyes. Hunter pulled the blanket over him and Omega and wrapped his arms around her, closing his eyes and drifting off into his peaceful sleep.